think just as long as people spend like, half an hour to research and actually see what it is and then say yes or no, I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Stumbling across it at that price and kind of finding it on YouTube. Obviously, with the internet being not such a reliable source in some cases, and kind of, a lot of hesitancy, I guess people would have about, putting their money somewhere where they don't really, believe or trust or know what's happening. What made you trust and believe in cryptocurrency or in Bitcoin?
I'm going to be honest. I think the first few months for me was kind of just like looking at different things I could do to fill in my time and make money. So I stumbled across it and I could see that people were making money because it had been climbing quite fast. And I kind of sat on the sidelines watching it go from 1,500 US to 3,000 over a few weeks. And I just remember when it broke the 3,000 mark, I was quite shocked. For me, it was still kind of understanding on how one single currency could be worth 3,000 US. So like back then, it was still like a lot of new things for me. I didn't actually understand Bitcoin's full potential or value. But at the same time, it wasn't really taken so seriously because Bitcoin had never reached that value before. And even when it came to like trying to buy or hold Bitcoin, it was like I had to buy it from some overseas site in Europe with my credit card. And I was like 18 at the time. I think it was my first credit card and the bank was freezing it saying, what the hell's going on? Like, you're trying to buy stuff in Europe from what we're seeing in like euros. And it's like some dodgy website. So I think back then I fully didn't understand the value of it. I was more just trying to like dive in the deep end, throw some money in, work out how I can send it or store it. So yeah, I think at the start that didn't really cross my mind too much because it was still so like small early days. And for me, I just didn't have that knowledge or understanding that I do today on what makes crypto so valuable. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess being that young, I mean, I'm 21 myself, but if I had stumbled upon it when I was 18, like most 18-year-olds, they, think they're pretty invincible and there's not many risks that, it's like you don't have a child to look after or, don't have a mortgage to pay off. So, putting some money into something like this isn't actually, the be all and end all. It's not going to, completely turn you upside down and make you homeless on the street.
Yeah.
So, why not?
Yeah, so I was living at home and I was working part-time, and back then the minimum wage was quite a bit lower. But at the same time, it's like all I had for my bills every month was like my phone bill, which is like $20. And then whatever fuel I used in the little crappy runaround car that my parents had for us. So for me, like, throwing in $200, even though I might have only had $300 in my account, didn't even matter because, I think just back then I was so much more younger and thinking as well. But at the same time, I didn't fully understand what Bitcoin or cryptocurrency was. Yeah, I think for me, it was such an experience seeing it take off. Yeah. And it was like really hard to try to link with people that knew what they were doing because it was so niche kind of. You had people in the States making videos, people in Europe, but I couldn't find anyone on YouTube making videos in New Zealand or explaining how to do it from New Zealand. So I think that's where my idea started to try and make some content around that.
Absolutely. And I mean, even to this day, I still believe that there's a lot of people that have potentially heard of Bitcoin or heard of cryptocurrency or, this new technological revolution that is happening at the moment, but they don't essentially understand it to a depth where they, believe in it or and they trust it. And, even, to think 3 years ago that you were creating content, like I looked at one of your videos last night, how to buy Bitcoin in New Zealand. And just, seeing that 3 years ago and knowing that, if I had stumbled at that 3 years ago, that would have been absolutely ridiculous. But to think that you're ahead of the eight ball on that, showing people how to do that, that's just, it's crazy. You're obviously like one of those people that was able to kind of see the value before a lot of other people were able to see the value. And I think even now in 2021, there's still people that are struggling to understand or see the value or just, couldn't care less.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's so much speculation at the moment, like people are throwing money in it because they want to get rich quick, even people that have asked me for help, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Sometimes I just point them towards like a documentary or an article and, read what Bitcoin is, why people see it as valuable. And they don't even want to put an hour into that. They just want to throw money in and expect, like 2 or 3 times returns in a few weeks. I think that's a main thing as well. People either don't see the value at the moment or they don't want to care about the value. They just want to make money. And I think everyone knows with investing, that's probably not the best way to do things, is just throwing money at things blindly.
Especially in a volatile market like the one of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly. Where something can drop 40% in a day. Like I remember waking up a few days over the last few years and you check coin market cap or whatever coin website you use and everything's down like minus 30%. It's a bloodbath.
Mm.
And if you have no idea what the heck this thing is, you're going to freak out and try sell. So yeah, I think that's one thing is even though like back then for me, I didn't understand the value. There's so many people today that are investing in crypto that don't see the value or they just don't want to learn it yet. I think over time, like say yourself today, if you put in $1,000 and you didn't research the value or see any value in Bitcoin yourself as being beneficial to the world or people, in 3 years' time, if Bitcoin keeps climbing, you might look back and be like, what the heck was I doing? I should have taken a bit of time then and researched it because clearly it's still growing. If something doesn't provide value or some kind of benefit to society, it usually doesn't continue very well. Like it's a free market. People pick what works and what they want to work or what they're interested in. And clearly this is like 11, 12 years old now and it's worth over $1 trillion. So something's right. But a lot of people just don't want to take the time to research it.
Yeah, essentially. And I mean, at the end of the day, the market is another factor or indicator that there is something right in this product. There is some value that this product holds or, this asset holds, however you want to put it, because there is a market for it and it is a huge market cap. Numbers won't lie. Numbers aren't lying. So, that is that. Moving forwards from when you first were kind of introduced into Bitcoin, into cryptocurrency, was that kind of your first look at assets or kind of understanding of looking at, these ways to make money? Were you in the stock market at all? Were you looking at, other avenues of investment, or was this kind of just the first?
Yeah. I think like growing up, there was a few times, I think when I was about 16, I started importing products from China and selling them at my local market, just like little toys and stuff. And that one of them did really well. I was able to sell over 500 things at my local market in my small town, 500 units. And I think like that learning experience of making your own money outside of a job, because at the time I'd only worked at a restaurant and then at the airport. So I was, working minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
But then making my own money in some other kind of form was so rewarding and it just felt so good. Like I felt so happy about myself. Even though it was kind of like real basic stuff, just reselling things from China. And then I started realizing that a lot of people can, they like to invest and they make slow returns, or sometimes they get risky and they make huge returns. And so I started investing in like options, like Forex options, like very, very risky. You're basically, longing or shorting the market and you've got like a 30-second window when your position closes. So like if you were to long USD against Australian dollar, and after the 30-second window or at the end of it, if the difference had gone up or down, say if you longed it, you're betting it's going to go up. But at the end of the 30 seconds, if it's lower than your bet position, you lose your total position, like you lose your total bet.
Wow.
But if it ends higher and you've bet long or higher, you make like a really good return, like 60% in like 30 seconds. It's basically gambling. So that was my first experience with that. And then didn't go too well.
Don't gamble, people. Don't gamble.
Honestly, it's total guessing. I didn't even understand what I was doing. I was like, okay, yep, it looks like it's going to go up. I'll just bid it up. But they were also doing Bitcoin as well. So you could buy Bitcoin through them and then sell it. And their fees were horrendous. And I didn't realize that till later. I had trouble withdrawing as well. And I think that's when I kind of thought, I need to go out and do this by myself because this company or platform is totally ripping me off. And I've lost like $400 through them already. So, so yeah, once again, it was kind of like another stupid move. Didn't know what I was doing, but just saw that people could make money from investing. So I think, I made like a lot of mistakes along the way, but at the same time, looking back, I'm happier I did it then when I was, only had a few $100 in my account. And then today I feel a lot more confident with things because I've made so many mistakes and I've learned from them.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I love to learn, I guess you could say the hard way. By making a mistake, because I guess if you make the mistake, then personally, it's like when you get pulled up for driving, you learn from your mistakes better than you learn from anything else, I think. So I can definitely see the value in making those mistakes early and then being able to build on them and then get to where you are now. So once you start getting into crypto, how long did it take for you to kind of look at other opportunities in the market, like Sharesies, for instance, or Hatch, or any of those platforms?
I think back then I had never heard of Sharesies because this is going back to 2017, 2018. But I think late 2018, early 2019, I invested in Harmony. If you remember Harmony, it was like a New Zealand peer-to-peer lending service.
Yeah.
So people could request like a loan through Harmony. And the platform Harmony themselves would kind of rate their loan and just give them an interest rate, and then people could lend the money and earn the interest. So it was almost like a bank, but instead of like the bank managing most of the money and the finances, they just managed the two parties to make sure both people met each other's expectations. So like I could lend $100, for your $5,000 loan, and a bunch of other people would lend the rest, and we would all kind of get a cut of the interest.
Yep.
So that was one that I didn't work out too well as well. So once again, it's just kind of like I've spent a little bit of time in Sharesies as well over the last 2 years, a little bit of time in that. Sharesies, I like the stock market, but not enough as much as I like crypto. It's like crypto I'm really, really passionate about, and I believe in it being like in its infancy stage, where I feel like the stock market's like very matured. Like you've got companies that have been around for like 60 plus years, and they've got, board of directors and thousands of employees. They're really well established, but like a company like that isn't going to skyrocket 800% in price in a year when it's 50 or 60 years old. But then you've got crypto that's a lot more volatile. It's a lot more younger. It's very, very digital, which is like what we've been brought up with,
Yeah.
We had smartphones when we were 14, 15, 16. We had the internet, like YouTube as well. So yeah, I think for me, I've tested all the little investment avenues, just not property yet, because that's like a big stage up. But yeah, I think the one that I was most passionate about was crypto. And it's just the fact that it's like fully decentralized. I can see everything and I understand how it works. Whereas with the stock market, it's not fully decentralized, and it's not fully transparent. A lot of people might argue that, but it really isn't. So at the end of the day, yeah, I just kind of fell in line with what I'm really passionate about and what's worked for me.
Absolutely. It's something that's amazing about, I guess, exactly what you said, being transparent and having that kind of understanding of where your money's going and where essentially like your time is going. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've struggled to communicate to people, and I've struggled to kind of understand myself. Is for me, cryptocurrency was, I heard of it and I was like, wow, this sounds very, very interesting, but I don't have the time to kind of look any further into it. And I valued my time. So I was like, well, I don't know if I trust where this is going. But once I started to understand, how transparent Bitcoin, for instance, was, and how, it's all set out in a public ledger, and it's all, able to be accessed by everyone, and it's virtually impossible to hack or change. It made a lot more sense, and it essentially validated my trust in my time, which essentially was the money that I was earning, to then actually risk or put some money into it. So it's such an amazing thing, and I think it's a good point to bring up when you're comparing something like Sharesies, which is promoted very heavily in New Zealand. Jump on Sharesies; it's the biggest platform for investing in New Zealand. If you look at the two perspectives, like you just said, one's very transparent and one's not so transparent. One can give you a very decent return on investment over a much smaller period of time, and one's not going to do that because it's not in its infancy stage, and it's been adopted by a lot of people already. So I guess that leads me to my next question, and that would be along the lines of diversification and where you see your investments, and do you diversify, or do you like to diversify your investments in the cryptocurrency market?
Yeah, so this is going to be another thing that someone from especially traditional finance or that isn't in crypto or fully understand it yet is probably going to laugh at. But most of my, or pretty much all my investing money so far is still within cryptocurrency, and it has been for the last year or so. So like July last year was when I kind of decided to pour my savings into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because I was watching the market slowly. At the same time, I put a portion of my savings into Sharesies as well. And in about January, February this year was when the GameStop situation was going on with the stock market. So I still had my money in Sharesies and had my money in Bitcoin and crypto. And I started to compare the two, and I made a few videos on YouTube about this, about my Sharesies stuff. And basically over that 8-month period, my Sharesies had gone up 11%, which is still pretty decent. When you annualize that, it comes to like 15, 16, 17%. So it's not that bad. But my Bitcoin and cryptocurrency on the other end was up like 780% in the same time period. And then at the same time, I was watching, what was it? Robin Hood over in the States freezing people from buying GameStop stock. So like right then and there, that was just like a big no-no to me. We're watching like this massive company manipulating the market. That's what I call it. Whether it was on purpose or mistake, but it seemed very, very well timed. They were stopping people from buying a stock because a lot of old traditional finance had been shorting GameStop, and they were losing money because of it going up. So you've got this massive company over in the States stopping people from buying it and stopping these massive banks from losing money. And yeah, that's just not a natural market for me. So that's when I decided I want out of the stock market, and within a few days sold all my shares. And then yeah, just recirculated it back into crypto and a few other things. So most of my investments are in crypto, but it doesn't mean it's 100% in Bitcoin, or it's 50% in one coin and 50% on another. A good chunk of that is actually in stable coins, which is basically like a digital version of the US dollar. So it's basically just digital cash. So I am holding quite a bit of cash, but it's not just sitting there doing nothing. It's actually earning some decent interest as well. But yeah, I think over time, I will diversify. I want my first home in the next 5-10 years or whatever. I want to be able to have my own house and, eventually maybe have a family and things like that. So I'm not going to be like 100% in crypto forever. But at the moment, yeah, very passionate about it. And just my experience with the stock market, I just don't like what I see. So yeah, I think that experience has made me tap out of that for the time being.
Yeah, cool. I think a lot of people can probably learn from that, and especially looking at the experience that I would see essentially from being a newcomer to the industry and learning very in the last kind of 6 months a lot about kind of what's going on, and then to be able to come and have a conversation with you, even me just hearing that gives me a good point of validation of like where if I am new to this industry, where should I be looking? Or obviously do your own research. Things are going to work for different people, absolutely, but to hear that is a great kind of verification that this may be a more appetizing market that you should dive into because of transparency, because of the returns that can happen a lot faster. That example of 780% increase in 8 months compared to a 12% increase in 8 months. You ask anyone on the side of the street, what would you prefer? I think everyone's going to say the exact same. Everyone's going to say 780.
So, yeah, I think it all just falls down to that kind of knowledge and understanding. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It's like even with the stock market, people invest what they're really confident about and what they're really passionate about, or what they believe is going to do good based off their own research, or what they just personally like. It's like, someone that really likes Tesla and thinks Elon Musk is doing a great job at heading that company, and they're going to sell millions of cars and change the world. They're going to want to invest in Tesla because they really believe in what they're doing as a company and a business. Whereas someone that really likes Netflix and thinks Netflix is killing Sky TV, they're not going to walk over and invest in Sky TV because it just doesn't make sense. If you really don't believe in something that works, or, you don't actually have passion or belief in it, why would you invest in it? So I think, yeah, for me, I'm really passionate about crypto, specifically Bitcoin. But yeah, I think just trying to share that kind of knowledge on my YouTube channel is the main thing. It's just try to get people to understand how it works and why I see it as valuable. And like, if, they learn a bit and they say this isn't for me, that's fine. I think just as long as people spend half an hour to research and actually see what it is and then say yes or no, I think that's the biggest thing.